What's up? What's good, YouTube? In today's video, we will be going over how to solo queue as every defender. Yes, I said solo queue. And some of you might be wondering, but Siege is a team-based game. Well, yes, it is. But yet, a lot of the times, people are stuck playing by themselves because they don't have a stack or people to play with. Now be aware, when you're playing Siege by yourself, you have to play the game and the operators totally different. Because with solo queue comes a lot of selfish teammates, and you will find yourself trying to push and do everything on your own. So without further ado, let's jump into this video and go over a tip on how to play every defender while solo queuing. Starting off with Sentry. If you're playing Sentry, which he's actually one of the best defenders for solo queuing because you can have two gadgets. He has a shotgun that he can make rotates with. So what I would normally do, I would go the deployable shield so your teammates can play behind it as well as you. And I would go the C4 so if they're trying to plan or anything, you can throw your C4 and get a free kill off that and help your team as much as you can. So on to our next operator, which is a very well-rounded op, is Smoke, and he's actually really good because there's no real counter to Smoke. He gets a shotgun, so you can win a lot of gunfights close up. He gets the SMG-11, which is a really good gun if you can hit your shots because he has a small magazine. But you want to go the barbed wire instead of the proxies. The proxies, people can just walk through them. It doesn't really slow them down. It just gives you intel where they're at. The barbed wire lets you know where they're at, and they're going to have to hit it twice or walk through it and take some damage. You can use 3 of his smoke canisters to stop them from planning. You can use them to stop them from getting in sight and just generally making them waste time and slow them down from being able to get in sight and make any plays or get that plant down. So smoke could be a really good choice on solo queue just to help your teammates from slowing them down and stopping them from getting in sight and putting that plant down. On to our next operator on defend, you have Mute. Same thing. I see a lot of people run the MP5K. You do not want to do that. You want to run the shotgun. The shotgun is so overpowered. And then you got the SMG-11. Basically, it is the same setup, but instead you get a C4. Never run the BP. Of course, you want the C4 so you can get extra kills off plan or anything like that. And he comes before Mute Jammers. And solo queue, you will see that a lot of people do not want to play support. They don't want to play Bandit or Cade for wall denial. And Mute can also be another wall denial. You can put them on 4 different walls, and it stops them from droning, which is huge because every operator drones. So you want to use Mute. He counters almost half of the attackers. So this is a really OP op, and it'll really help your teammates. So with these Mute Jammers, it can slow them down from droning and trying to make any plays and take over any positioning. So Mute for solo queue is a very, very good option. On to our next operator, you have Castle, and honestly, Castle is a very underrated operator. His gun isn't the best, but it is good. He has a shotgun, so he can make rotates, and he has a BP. Most of the time, I like going to BP so people can flip cams if they die. Now, what Castle does is he just genuinely slows the attackers down from being able to push sight or make any plays. They're either going to have to bring hard breaches or something to break the castles, or they're just going to waste time trying to punch the castles and break them, and you get 4 of them, so you can really lock down any windows and repels and all that type stuff. And with Castle, like I said, whenever they do hard breach it or break it, not only does it tell you where they're at, but it slowed them down and made them waste their utility. So he is a very good solo queue op. On to our next operator, we have Pulse. Me personally, I wouldn't suggest playing Pulse on solo queue because you're going to be roaming, and what you will tend to see when you're solo queuing, a lot of people do not stay in sight, so you want to be able to be one of the kids that will stay in sight and try to hold it down because most people like to roam and do whatever they want to do. But if you do end up playing Pulse and you're roaming, he is actually a good op for some maps and for some plays if you want to play smart from below. But I would personally use his shotgun, and of course you'd use his C4. But like I said, I don't recommend Pulse in solo queuing. He's not really going to help the team, and if you get picked while you're out of sight, you just throw a body, and now they have the advantage and they can push sight hard. On to our next operator, probably the most overpowered op on defend is Doc. Of course, you're going to want to go as MP5. I see people go the P90. It's kind of up to you. The P90 is a good gun, but I prefer the MP5. It's way better, and I would pick the bailift, of course, so you can make head holes and rotates for your teammates, and I would go the barbed wire to slow people down. They have to break it, and you'll know where they're at. Now with Doc, what you want to do is literally just stay in sight and stay alive as long as you can. So if your teammates do roam and they come back into sight and they're still alive and they got low, you can Doc stem them. He gets 3 stems. He can put 3 people to full HP. He's one of the best defenders. In my opinion, he's the best defender because he can literally heal 3 people to full HP, including yourself. Now with our next operator, it's quite similar. You got Rook. He has the same gun, MP5. You cannot make rotates with a secondary, so I would go the revolver and I would go impacts so you can make rotates. A lot of people don't make rotates in solo queue. They just do whatever they want. So you're going to find yourself frustrated if there's not rotates to be able to move around and plan sight. So definitely bring the impacts. But if I were you, I would play Doc over Rook. But if some reason Doc's banned or something and you're playing Rook, he's not a bad operator. He gives everybody on the team a little bit of HP. And if they get knocked, they can revive themselves. So he's actually a pretty good operator. But like I said, I would definitely recommend Doc instead. On to our next operator, you have Capcan. Now with Capcan, of course, you're going to go his 9x19, and it doesn't really matter which pistol, and you're going to choose the C4. Now with Capcan, he's actually a really good solo queue op because he gives you an advantage. So you could be in sight and you still have the potential to get kills while you're not roaming, which can help your teammate. So you can be in sight holding sight and you can get 1 to 2 kills with your Capcans, which will help the team. Not only is he going to help the team, he's going to help you boost your KD by getting free kills. On to our next operator, you have Tachanka. Now, I wouldn't recommend playing Tachanka in solo queue. He's not really a good operator, but if you did, do not choose the LMG. A lot of people run the LMG so they can break walls and stuff, but I would definitely recommend the same gun, the 9x19, and I would use his SMG, the Bearing 9, and I would bring the deployable shield. Now, the reason why you want to bring the deployable shield instead of barbed wire or proxy is because teammates cannot play off your barber proxy. Yes, it will give them intel of where they're coming from, but if your teammate wants to play behind this shield, that will be helping your teammate as much as you can. But like I said, I don't suggest playing Tachanka. The reason why is his fire doesn't do that much damage. Even if it does, you have to have his launcher out, and most of the time, me personally, if somebody's Tachanking, I just run in and kill him because 95% of the time they're going to have his launcher out and it should be a free kill. Now on to our next operator, you have Jager. Of course, you're going to want to use his AR, and you're going to want to bring the BP so you can have intel. So if anybody dies, they can flip the cam. Now with Jager, he is a very good op all around. He's good for any site, any map, and he's very good for solo queuing. So if they have anybody trying to flash, if they have anybody trying to ying, if they have a mirror on your team and you're trying to help your team so they can't get the mirror as easy, if they have anything like that, if they have a Grim, also, Jaeger's really good because he stops them from pushing, and not only pushing, they waste all their util, and now they really can't push because they're not going to be able to flash you, ying you, Grim you. Also, if people are trying to ace your mirror that your teammate's playing, that will help them. So overall, Jaeger's a very good solo queue op. It helps your teammates all around, no matter what operator the attackers are on. Jaeger basically counters them. Now with our next operator, we have Bandit. Now Bandit is one of the most underrated ops in the game in solo queue. When you're solo queuing, a lot of people, really, every time I solo queue, nobody plays wall denial. Nobody wants to hop on support. They want to play whatever gun they want, whatever operator they want, and they're not down to help the team. So if you're willing to play Bandit for the team, it could really help, because if you can just Bandit trick on the wall, you can stop their whole push and it chalks everything. Siege is a really mental game, so if you can stop them from getting the wall and just bandit trick, then it'll be easy and you'll most likely win that round because they're going to have to push from somewhere else and they wasted all that time trying to get wall for no reason. And he has a C4. You can get a C4 kill off plant and you can just get a C4 kill off anywhere, anytime. On to our next operator, you have Frost. Of course, you're going to want to go her 9mmC1. You're going to bring her shotgun so she can make head holes and rotates for your teammates, and you're going to bring your deployable shield. So what she brings, you have a shotgun to make rotates and head holes. You have a deployable shield, so even if you die, your teammates can play behind this shield. And you have a chance, just like Cap can, you could be playing in sight and you have a chance for them to hit a frost mat. And even if you don't get the kill off of it, which most likely you're going to hear them hit them frost mat and your teammates can swing or get the kill, or you can. But if you don't get the kill, they're still going to be 1 HP and they're going to have to be limping around. So it should be an easy kill because they're going to be one shot. Now on to our next operator is a very OP op, especially in solo queue. You'll find yourself a lot of the time people will roam in solo queue and they'll throw bodies or they'll swing dumb stuff because they're egotistical. So with Valk, if you just find good Valk placements, whenever they die, they can flip cams and ping and give you comms so you have a chance to clutch the round because you have cams that are hidden, and she gets a deagle so you can make head holes. Also, she gets a C4 for plant, or what I like to do, I counter her cameras with a C4 and I'll do nitros from below, and you can do it on any map. It's easy, it gets me free kills, it boosts the KD, and it helps your teammates. On to our next operator, we have Cav. This is up to you. You can use her shotgun or her little SMG, but I would prefer to use the SMG just in case you're getting in long range fights. And then I would bring impacts so you can make rotates for your teammates. But me personally, I would not play Cav while you're solo queuing because like I said earlier in the video, a lot of people are already going to be roaming, doing their own thing, thinking that they're him when they're really not. And you don't want them to throw a body and you be out of sight and throw a body, or nobody be in sight and then be able to just push sight hard and get plant down. So if I were you and you were solo queuing, I wouldn't play Cav. Now Cav isn't a bad operator if you have a stack and you're the only one roaming. She's actually very good, especially if you can get interrogation. She's very OP, but me personally, I wouldn't suggest using her in solo queue. On to our next operator, we have Echo. You're going to be using the MP5 SD, and you're going to be using his bearing 9 machine gun pistol, and you're going to want to bring the deployable shield. Now the reason why you're going to bring the deployable shield, like every other operator, you're going to have that so if you do die, your teammates can play it and you can play it. Just helps the teammate, slows people down from pushing because they have to worry about you swinging off of the shield. Now what he does bring also is his yokai drones. What he can do is he can stop somebody from planning. So what I would suggest if you go Echo for solo queuing is stay in sight, stay alive, and whenever it's in game, I would hide somewhere, and whenever they go for plant, you can easily stop them from doing that. And not only can you stop them from doing plant, you can just have your drones for intel, so if any of your teammates die, they can sit on your drones and they can ping stuff and tell you where they're at. On to our next operator, you have Mir. Of course, you're going to want to go the Vector. You're going to want to go the shotgun so you can make head holes and rotates. And you're going to bring that C4 for plant or any C4 kills that you can try to get. Now with Mir, she's one of the main points of your team. Yes, they can twitch it. Yes, they can ace it. Yes, there's ways to counter it. But Mir is a very good op because even if they do end up getting the Mirs, you made them play an operator that they most likely didn't want to play to counter her, or it's going to slow down time and make them waste time trying to get your Mir. And if they don't end up getting the Mir, now they're chalked because if they push, it should be easy kills. There's no way you don't get kills off a Mir that isn't popped. Now for your next operator, you have Lesion. Right now, I have it as the shotgun. Depending on the map, if it's a close quarters map, I honestly would say use the shotgun. It's a very good shotgun, but you have to know how to play it. But for starters, if you're solo queuing and you're just playing regularly, I would use a submachine gun. I would bring a shotgun so you can make rotates and head holes, and I would bring the BP camera for intel and for anybody to be able to flip it if they die. Now with Lesion, I would just play in sight, and I would throw your goo mines on all types of pushes. So what this does is it not only helps you be able to hear if they hit them, it helps your teammates. So if you throw a goo mine on the other side of the map and your teammate's over there by your goo mine, if somebody hits that goo mine, your teammate can hear it and they can swing off of it. So it helps not only you, it helps your teammates, it helps you give intel, and you have the shotgun to make head holes and rotates, and you have the BP camera. On to our next operator, you have Ela. Now what you're going to do for your gadget, I would bring the deployable shield, but most of the time, like I said, a lot of people don't make rotates. So if you see they're not making rotates, I would run impacts. But the shield is more helpful, I feel like, because if your teammates can just make rotates, now you have a shield that you can play behind, your team can play behind, and it will slow them down from pushing sight. And she gets 3 of her Ela mines, which stops the attackers from pushing in, and they're the loudest thing in the game. So when they hit them, not only will you hear it, your teammates will hear it, and they'll be flashed so they can't really see. So not only can you swing it and get a free kill, if you're not near them, your teammates can swing and get a free kill also, so it helps your team. Now for your next operator, you have Vigil. I do recommend Vigi. He's a very good roaming op. You can't be grimmed, you can't be lion scanned. He's overall a really good op. He has the SMG-12, and you can bring your impacts to make rotates. But me personally, if I was solo queuing, I try to stay away from Vigi because he is mainly a roaming op, and you don't want to be roaming. Like I said with all the other roaming ops, you don't want to get caught roaming because a lot of your teammates will probably roam because it's solo queuing. They're not working together. They're just playing whatever they want to do. So I wouldn't play Vigi. But if you do, I would run the Boss G, the SMG-12, of course, and the impacts to make rotates for late game. So on to our next op, we have Maestro. Now Maestro's really good. A lot of people don't run him, but he does have the bailiff to make head holes and rotates. So I would run the barbed wire to slow them down from getting in and give you intel from where they're pushing from because you can hear them break it. You would run the bailiff to make rotates and head holes. You would run the LMG so you have basically unlimited ammo. You can just spam spray and you can pre-fire everything and get kills. And not only that, he helps the team because he has cameras. So with his 3 cameras, you can help your teammate by shooting people and making them low, which will help you get assist. So if you die, they'll be low and your teammates should be able to get the kill because they're low from the camera. And you can just have the camera to be able to flip to see where people are. So if you're going to play Maestro in solo queue, I would suggest staying alive as long as you can because he's mainly used for denying the plant. So if anybody's trying to get plant down late game, you can easily hop on your Maestro cams and just shoot them, and it should be a free kill. Now on to our next op, you have Alibi. Me personally, I wouldn't use Alibi solo queuing. Everybody that plays Siege, if you're a decent rank, everybody knows if it's an Alibi clone. You can tell they're not moving, they're standing still. You don't really get much out of her because not a lot of people shoot them because they're just clones, and it's very noticeable that they're clones, so I wouldn't recommend her. But if you're going to run her, of course, I would run the MX4, and I would run the bailiff so you can make rotates and head holes, and I would run the proxy alarms so you can get intel from where they're pushing from. But like I said, I wouldn't suggest running Alibi in solo queue. She's not a horrible operator, but it's just a lot of people know not to shoot her clones, and if they don't, then she's basically useless. Now on to our next operator is definitely the worst operator on Defend. The only thing Clash is good for in this season, collision point, is against shield ops. If you know they're going to be running shield ops, then you can run Clash, but Clash is literally the last resort, especially in solo queuing. You do not want to run Clash, because if you're running Clash, you're going to want a teammate to play with you, and you're solo queuing, so most likely nobody's going to play with you, so you're on Clash for no reason. You're just going to get jumped, or they're just going to run up and hit your shield and nobody's going to be playing with you. So it's just going to be a waste of an operator. And she's just really one of the worst operators in the game on defend, because she can't really do anything but just slow people down, which is good. But at the same time, it's easy to counter Clash. But for some reason, if you want to use Clash, I would run her SMG and I would run her deployable shield, so you can put the deployable shield somewhere so your teammates can play behind it. So if you die, you still help the team a little bit. You give them something to play off of. But like I said, I do not recommend playing Clash in solo queue. This is the last operator I would recommend playing in solo queue. Do not play Clash unless they're running Blackbeard or Shield Ops. Now on to our next operator, you have Cade. Now a lot of people like to run his shotgun, but me personally, I do not like this shotgun. It does do 63 damage, so it's a 2-shot, but I just don't like his shotgun. I'm not good with it. I don't know if it's me personally. Y'all let me know in the comments. I'm just not good with these shotguns. Same thing with a zombie shotgun. I'm not good with that. So I like to run his AR with the red dot sight. So I would run the AR, I would run the revolver, and of course I'd run the C4. Now with Cade, he's a very good solo queuing op for any sites that are downstairs, so you can get the hatches. 85-90% of the times, nobody's going to play Cade in solo queue. Nobody wants to play support, like I said earlier in the video. So if you can stand up and be the one to play support for your team, he doesn't have a horrible gun. It's not the best gun. It's not the best operator, but it will slow them down. And if they're not able to get that hatch, that's one less thing they can push, and it'll be harder, and they wasted time going to the hatch and not ending up being able to get it. So this is a very good operator for solo queue. I really recommend him. Now on to our next defender, we have Macie. I like to go her P-Roni. I like to go C4, of course. That's always the best choice. Now with Macie, she's not a bad solo queue op because she has 4 drones that she can steal. And what I like to do, I like to pair it with the C4. So I'll hack a drone and I'll put it upstairs somewhere, and I'll put a pre-placed nitro downstairs, and I'll sit on that cam and try to get a free kill. So she can be very useful in solo queue because you can have cameras set up everywhere for your teammates to flip that you hacked. And you can get the pre-placed nitro kills, which will help your team, and it will help you boost your KD. On to our next operator, we have Warden. Now, Warden is a very good operator, especially for solo queue, because there's not going to be a lot of people in sight. Like I said, everybody likes to roam. So if you're Warden and you're playing in sight, you can easily hold down sight, because if they're trying to push it and get quick plant down by smoking, flashing, yinging, or anything like that, you can easily just turn his goggles on and you can swing and make the play. And he gets the best shotgun in the game, which is really powerful. And not only does he get the shotgun, he gets the SMG-12, which is my favorite gun on defend. And then you can pair it with the C4. So you can, if they're going for plant and you're in sight, not only can you see through smoke, flashes, yings, and stuff like that, you can swing it and you can C4 if they're going for plant. And you have 2 of the best guns on defend. You got a good shotgun, which is the best shotgun in the game. It's very powerful, very good, very useful. Same thing with the SMG-12. As long as you know how to control recoil, the fire rate on this is good. It has a good magazine. But on to our next operator, we have Goyo. And Goyo is a very good solo queue op. His gun is very good if you can control your recoil. He has very good fire rate. And you can bring impacts to make rotates. So if your teammates ain't making rotates or anything and you're getting mad, well, you got impacts, so you don't have to worry about it. Now with Goyo, he's a very good operator on solo queue because it stops them from pushing sight. And if they're trying to go for plant, you can deny that with your fire on the doors or any windows. Also, if you put your Goyo on windows as an attacker, when you break those goyos, the fire shoots outside of the window, so it has the potential to burn the attacker a little bit, which would do a little bit of damage, which would get you some assist if y'all end up winning the round and getting the kills. But he is a really good op for solo queue. Like I said, his fire is very good. It slows them down. It lasts for like 13 to 15 seconds, I think. So if they're trying to push in sight and you still have your goyos and they didn't run a twitch to pop them, you should be set. Y'all should win that round because they're either going to have to run through the fire or wait for it to go away, which is going to waste more time. So now they don't have as much time to get plant down or try to run in and make a play. On to our next operator, you have Wamai. Wamai used to be really good when he had his ACOG. I don't see him used anymore, but he still is really good. A lot of people like to run his AUG. Me personally, I like to run the MP5K. I like to run the impacts, so you can always make those rotate, so if your teammates don't. Now with Wamai, he's really good. It's basically the same thing as Jager. He's going to counter Ying, anybody with smokes, anybody with flashes. He can counter Ace. So with Wamai, if you see that your teammate's playing mirror, you can automatically help your teammate. So if they try to ace it or anything like that, Wamai will stop them and slow them down from getting your mirror, which will make them waste time and utility. So overall, Wamai is actually a really good solo queue operator because not only does it help you, it helps your teammates. And ultimately, that's what you want to do so that y'all can get more wins. On to our next operator, you have Oryx. Oryx is one of probably the second worst ops on Defender if they're not running shields, because if they're not running shields, he's kind of pointless. So Oryx is pretty much useless. He's the second worst defender in the game, in my opinion, if they're not running shields, because if they're not on shields, he's pretty much useless other than making rotates, which you don't need to make rotates, because if you're going to use Oryx, you could literally just go Lesion. You get the same AR, you get a shotgun for Lesion to make rotates and head holes. So there's really no point to run Oryx unless they're running shields. If they're running shields, then Oryx is definitely your best bet. On to our next operator. One of my favorite operators on Defend is Melusi. Everybody doesn't like using her as much because she lost her ACOG. I like it better because she gets 4 more Banshees. I don't need a scope to be good. I can throw the red dot sight on and be perfectly fine. Not only does she have a good gun, she has a shotgun to make rotates and head holes, and you can bring a BP camera, and she has 4 Banshees. So with these Banshees, you're going to force them to counter her, which the only way you can counter Melusi is like frag grenades, Brava, or Flores, which is going to make them play those operators. It's going to make them waste time trying to get your Melusis, and if they don't get the Melusis, now you're pretty much set, because if any of these Melusi go off, it's going to slow them down. You're going to know where they're at, know where they're pushing, and all your teammates are going to be able to hear it and know where they're at and know where they're pushing. So not only does it help you, it helps your teammate, and it helps them slow down, wasting time, because they're going to have to either hack them or blow them up. On to our next operator, we have Aruni. Now, everybody likes running the DMR. I personally choose the DMR. I see some people use the P-Roni. It's not a bad gun because they like to run around and play a little bit quicker, but the DMR is definitely better in my opinion. It does 60 damage. It's basically a 2-shot gun, so all you got to do is hit 2 shots and you get the kill. She's very good for putting these on hatches. So for example, like on Cafe, they got new hatch and red hatch right there next to each other. So if you put Arunis on both of those, they're going to have to use their util or break their cameras, which is going to make them waste their cameras or their util, and it's going to slow them down from getting in. And after they use it, after so much time, you can shoot it and activate the Aruni gate again. So not only does she stop them from flashing you, smoking you, she's basically the same thing as Wamai and Jager, but better in my opinion, because you can easily shoot it and activate it again, and she has a better weapon than both of them. It's a 2-shot gun, and she brings barbed wire to the table, which is really good. So Aruni's actually a very powerful operator if you know how to play her. I suggest definitely playing her in solo queue because it slows the operators down. And if they have nothing to throw through the Aruni gates, I find myself all the time, I don't have any cameras or I bring hard breaches or something, and I literally have to run through it. And they're solo queuing, so most likely they're not going to have teammates and comms to come burn the Aruni gate for you, so they're either going to have to walk through it and take damage or waste the only util that they have. Now for our next op, you have Thunderbird. Me personally, I don't recommend playing Thunderbird. She's not a bad op, don't get me wrong. She is very good if you're solo queuing, because not only can you just sit in sight and heal yourself, you can heal your teammates. But if you're going to use anybody that's healing, I would suggest going Doc. But if Doc's banned, I would definitely use her in solo queue because she's very good, very useful. She helps heal the teammates, and that's very good. That's probably the best thing you can do in the game to help your teammates, is heal them and give them more health. She does have a decent gun. It does 42 damage. It's not a bad gun. And for her secondary, you can bring a shotgun to make head holes and rotates. And you can bring a deployable shield. So Thunderbird brings a lot to the table. You can have a deployable shield you can use and your teammates can use. You can have shotguns so you can make rotates and head holes for your teammate. And her gun does good damage and it's not a bad gun. And you can heal your teammates and yourself also. So on to our next operator, you have Thorn. It's not even that she's a bad operator. I just don't suggest her in solo queue because the odds of you getting a kill with Thorn is very low unless you counter her Thorn with her barbed wire. But most of the time, people are going to break the barb before they walk in and hit the Thorn. So you're most likely not going to get a kill off her Thorns. I don't really die to it. I don't see a lot of people die to it. I don't see people even play her. So I don't suggest playing her in solo queue. There's just better operators you can go that are trap ops like Capcan, Melusi, and stuff like that. Now on to our next operator. She's honestly one of my favorite operators on Defend, is Azami. She has a very good AR. Some people run the shotgun. Like I said earlier, the shotgun does a lot of damage. It's a very good shotgun. I'm just not good with it. I don't like how it shoots. I just don't like it in general. Y'all let me know in the comments if that's just me. That's just me personally. I use the AR and I flood with her. I fly. I feel smooth. It's just the same for me. And she has a deagle so she can make head holes. And I like to bring the impacts just in case so you can make rotates. And with her keeper barriers, not only can you create pixels for yourself, you can create pixels for your teammates, and they're going to have to use their utility to break your keeper barriers, or they're going to have to waste their ammo, or they're going to have to run up and punch them, which lets you know that they're right there on the door and you can swing it, or if you're not near it, your teammate can swing it. So Azami is a very good operator for solo queue because, like I said, you can create pixels for your teammates while you're on the other side of the map on your own pixel. So not only can you create pixels for your teammates, they have to break these and use their utility, and she has a good weapon, and she can make rotates for your teammates. On to our next operator, you have Solis. Now, I wouldn't suggest using Solis in solo queue. I don't see anybody use Solis anymore. She used to be very good. I wouldn't use her. She's mainly meant for roaming, and you don't want to roam in solo queue because most of the time there's going to be kids on your team that are going to be roaming, and you don't want to be roaming as well and leave site empty. So I wouldn't use Solis. On to our next operator, you have Fenrir. I wouldn't suggest running Fenrir in solo queue only because he did get nerfed, so he can only have 2 activated, and most of the time they're just going to have a twitch or something to get him. He's not a bad operator if you know how to play him, and you can put him in key spots where they can't find him, but I don't suggest playing him in solo queue. Like I said, there's just better operators you can play. Now don't get me wrong, he is a good operator. If they don't end up getting them, he could be very powerful and very useful. He has a very good gun with a good fire rate, no recoil. He has a bailiff so he can make rotates and head holes. So honestly, you could play him in solo queue if you know where to put the Fenrirs. But if you're just throwing them on the top of doors, most likely they're going to counter it, they're going to get it, and he's just going to be a waste. Me personally, if you're going to run Fenrir, I would rather run Bandit because you can stop them from getting wall, which is everything. If they don't get wall, that chalks their whole mindset. And he has the same gun as Bandit, And also, Bandit comes with a C4, which is better than a BP or any of these observation blockers. So I wouldn't suggest Fenrir in solo queue. He's not a bad operator. I'm not saying that. He could be very powerful, but I wouldn't suggest him in solo queue. Now, for our second to last operator, we have Tube. Tube is a very good operator, like I said, to help your team. Your team is not going to want to play support. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that. When you're on solo queue, you're going to be mad because they're going to be getting that wall really fast. So if you don't have anybody on support and you don't want to play Bandit or Cade, or you already have a Bandit and Cade, you can double up and go Tube to help your team even more, which will bait more time. It lasts 15 seconds. You get 3 canisters, so that's 45 seconds that stops them and slows them down from getting wall. So it's going to slow them down from getting wall, and it's going to help your team. And he gets a really good DMR, which is a 2-shot gun. It does 67 damage. And he comes with a C4. So not only does he help the team by slowing them down from getting the main wall, he has a C4 for plant or just for any kills, and he has one of the best guns in the game, basically, because it's a DMR. All DMRs are good because they're 2-shot weapons. So if you want to run Tube, I suggest it in solo queue. A lot of people don't run him, but in solo queue, he is really good because, like I said, he's going to make them waste a lot of time, which stops them from pushing in and making a play, and it stops them from getting plant down quick. Now for our last operator, which is our newest operator that was added, is Scopos. Scopos is a very good operator for solo queuing. Like I've been saying in this video, I don't recommend roaming, but Scopos is a different roamer. He's a very good roamer. So you can have one of his robots in sight and you could be roaming, and whenever time you feel like, you can just immediately switch back into sight. So he's really good for roaming. You can literally just be upstairs and just bait 30 seconds to a minute. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it slows the attackers down. It makes them waste time. And he can just switch back out of nowhere into sight. So he could be upstairs, and they can still think you're upstairs playing upstairs, but meanwhile, you've already switched back into sight. So now they're droning upstairs, wasting time, and you're already back in sight just chilling. So Scopos is a very good operator for solo queue. I definitely recommend him. He has a really good gun. It has no recoil. It does 40 damage. It's good damage. It has a good fire rate. And he has impacts, so if you're roaming and you need to make quick rotates to run away and hide somewhere to switch robots real quick, you can. Or you can use his impacts to make rotates in sight, which will really help your teammates. That is going to be the end of this video. Now, I don't recommend solo queuing. Solo queuing is very hard, but like I said at the beginning of the video, a lot of people either don't have friends or they just don't have people to play with, so they end up having to solo queue. It happens to me all the time. A lot of my friends won't be on, or I won't have a stack, so I just end up solo queuing because I'm bored and I want to play Siege. Siege is very fun. Everybody wants to play Siege and have fun, but it is very hard solo queuing, watching your teammates do some of the dumbest stuff. I don't recommend solo queuing, but this video was just helping you, so when you do solo queue, giving you knowledge on how to play every defender and how to help your team as much as you can, because your team's not trying to help you. So most people look at it as like, well, my team's not going to help me, so I'm not going to help them. I'm just going to hop on whatever op I want, and I'm just going to roam or do whatever I want. You want to do the opposite of that. You don't want to be like everybody else. You want to try to bring and help the team as much as you can, even if they're not trying to help you, because ultimately you're trying to win. You don't want to lose. So you want to bring as much stuff as you can, even if you end up dying. For instance, if I play Melusi and I end up dying and my teammates are still alive, they can still win the round off playing off my Melusis. So when people swing, they can get easy kills because they're hitting Melusis. Now, if I were to go a different op, like a frag op like Vigi, and I were to roam and get first pick, now I threw a body, and they're going to be able to just run in sight easy, and it's not going to stop them. It's not going to make them waste time because they can just walk in because we didn't bring any utility to slow them down. So in solo queue, it is very hard. It is very brain rot. It's very annoying. I don't suggest it. But if you're going to, I hope this video helped you out a little bit, and I hope you get more wins when you solo queue. I've been solo queuing a lot, and I've been getting more wins just playing smart. I was the same way when I first started solo queuing. I would just run around and do whatever I want, but I realized when you don't have comms and you don't have your teammates in a game which is so focused on teamwork, comms, and all that, you definitely just want to help the team as much as you can, even if they're not helping you. So I hope this video helped you a little bit. If it did, y'all make sure y'all smack that like and subscribe button. Drop a comment if y'all want me to make a second video, part 2, on the attackers. But that is going to be the end of this video. Y'all be safe. God bless. We out.